All right, everyone, ready for another deep dive?
I am.
Excellent. Because this one is a doozy. We're talking about a discovery that has astronomers doing a double take. Remember that massive planet Hubble found a while back?
Orbiting that ancient star. Yeah, back in 2003.
That's the one. Well, the James Webb Telescope just threw us a curveball, and scientists are scrambling to figure out what it means.
Yeah, this isn't just some minor tweak to our understanding of planets. This has the potential to completely upend what we thought we knew about how planets form, especially in the early universe.
Okay, so before we get too deep into the weeds here, let's lay out our sources for this deep dive. We've got a fascinating article on spacetelescope.org that breaks down the discovery.
And of course, the actual research paper published in the Astrophysical Journal. Definitely some dense reading, but it lays out all the juicy details.
Exactly. And what these sources are pointing to is a pretty wild idea. That maybe, just maybe, we had the timeline for planet formation all wrong.
Because you see, the prevailing wisdom was that planets needed a certain cocktail of ingredients to form. Specifically, lots of heavy elements.
I mean, you get from supernova explosions, right?
Right. Stars going out with a bang and scattering all those heavier elements like carbon, oxygen, and iron out into space. Those elements were thought to be essential for planets to clump together.
Okay, so how does that relate to this new discovery?
Well, the early universe wasn't exactly a heavy metal concert. It was mostly hydrogen and helium, the lighter elements. Not much in the way of heavier stuff.
So not exactly prime real estate for planets to form, at least according to our old models.
Exactly. Scientists figured that the disks of gas and dust around those early stars would get blown away pretty quickly by the star's radiation.
Especially without those heavier elements to act as a sort of cosmic glue, right?
Right. So the thinking was that there just wasn't enough time for planets to form around those ancient stars.
But then we get this massive planet Hubble found orbiting one of those ancient stars, and it just didn't make sense. It's like finding a fully grown oak tree in the middle of the desert. You got to wonder how it got there.
Yeah, it was a total head-scratcher. But then scientists turned their attention to a really interesting region of space called NGC 346.
Which is?
It's a star-forming region in a nearby galaxy called the Small Magellanic Cloud. And what makes NGC 346 so special is that it's kind of like a time capsule.
What do you mean?
Well, its composition is similar to the early universe, low in those heavy elements we were just talking about. So it's a perfect place to study how stars and planets might have formed back then.
Ah, I see. So Hubble gave us a glimpse of what might be happening there, but it couldn't really give us the full picture, right?
Exactly. And that's where James Webb comes in with its incredible sensitivity and its ability to capture those colorful bands of light called spectra.
Spectra, you mean like those barcodes that tell us what something's made of?
Yeah, exactly. By analyzing the spectra from those stars in NGC 346, scientists could get a much clearer picture of what was going on in those disks around them. And what they found was shocking.
I bet it was. What did those spectra reveal?
That those old stars, they still have their disks. And not only that, but they're still actively gobbling up material from them.
So it's like a construction site that's still buzzing with activity, even though the building was supposed to have been finished ages ago?
Exactly. We're talking signs of ongoing planet formation, even though these stars are 20 to 30 million years old.
That's way older than any model predicted those disks could survive. So how do we explain this? Did someone forget to hit the off switch on planet formation?
Well, scientists are now considering two pretty interesting possibilities, or maybe even a combo of the two. The first one has to do with the radiation pressure from these stars.
It's a force that's constantly trying to push away that gas and dust.
That's it. And in an environment with fewer heavy elements, that pressure might be a lot weaker than we thought.
Oh, okay, so it's like trying to blow confetti away with a fan versus trying to blow away pebbles. The pebbles are a lot harder to move.
Perfect analogy. Those disks might just be tougher than we thought, and that extra time could be all it takes for planets to form.
Makes sense. All right, so that's the radiation pressure idea. What about the other possibility? What's the alternate explanation for these long-lasting disks?
Well, the second idea focuses on the gas clouds that these stars formed from in the first place. You see, in a low, heavy element environment, those clouds might have to be much larger to have enough gravity to kickstart star formation.
So basically, you need a much bigger cloud to have enough gravitational pull to get the party started.
Right. And a bigger gas cloud means a bigger disk around the newly formed star. More material to work with, more time for planets to form.
So it's like the universe found a clever workaround for those low, heavy element conditions. But this raises another question. If those early disks can last for tens of millions of years, does that mean planet formation is a much slower process than we originally thought?
Now, that is a fascinating question, and it's one that scientists are really grappling with right now. It could mean that our previous models need some serious revisions.
Wow, this is getting pretty deep. And it sounds like we've only just scratched the surface of this discovery.
We've only just begun. And it makes you wonder if maybe, just maybe, we've been a little too narrow-minded in our search for planets out there.
Interesting. What do you mean?
Well, we've been focusing so much on finding planets that orbit stars similar to our sun. Stars with lots of those heavy elements.
Yeah, kind of like looking for Earth 2.0, right?
Exactly. But what if this discovery is telling us that planets are way more common than we thought, even in places we considered, not so hospitable?
Like those early stars with low, heavy elements?
Right. It's like realizing there's a whole hidden section of the library full of books we never even knew existed.
That's a great analogy. So this could change how we search for planets, maybe even how we search for life beyond Earth.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, this is just one study, one glimpse into a star-forming region that's similar to the early universe. Who knows what else is out there waiting to be discovered, especially with James Webb out there doing its thing.
Yeah, talk about a game changer. It's pretty amazing to think that Hubble gave us those first clues, and then James Webb came along and was able to really zoom in and confirm what was going on. It really shows how much science builds on itself, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's a perfect example of how different instruments and telescopes can work together to help us unlock the mysteries of the universe. And speaking of unlocking mysteries, the researchers behind this study, they actually found some pretty convincing evidence to support these two explanations we've been talking about for those long-lasting disks.
Okay, let's hear it. What kind of evidence are we talking about? Fill me in.
Well, for one thing, they found that the star cluster, NGC 346, it's got only about 10% of the heavy elements that our sun has.
Wow, that's a huge difference. Like comparing a gourmet meal to a bowl of plain oatmeal. Not much flavor there.
Right, and that means the radiation pressure from those stars is probably way weaker, which would explain why those disks are able to hang around for so much longer than we thought possible.
It's like those early stars are playing a cosmic game of keep away with their disks.
Exactly. They just can't blow them away as easily. Okay, now for the other idea. Remember that one about the bigger gas clouds?
Yeah, the idea that in a low, heavy element environment, those clouds need to be supersized to even form stars in the first place.
Right. Well, the researchers pointed out that this actually makes a lot of sense. You see, without those heavier elements acting like a kind of cosmic glue, it's a lot harder for that gas to clump together.
So you need a much bigger cloud to have enough gravity to pull everything in and get that star-forming party started.
Exactly. And what's really cool is that a bigger gas cloud, well, that means a bigger disk around that newly formed star. More material to work with, more time for those planets to form.
It's like the universe found a way to compensate. Figured out a workaround for those low, heavy element conditions. But this brings up another question, actually. If those early disks are lasting for, tens of millions of years, does that mean that the whole process of planet formation is a lot slower than we initially thought?
That's a great question, and it's definitely something scientists are trying to figure out right now. Our current models for planet formation, well, they might need a little tweaking. And there's another interesting thing that came out of this research. When the researchers looked at the spectra from those young stars in NGC 346, they found something else.
Okay, I'm all ears. What did they find?
Well, they found signs of something called cold molecular hydrogen around those stars.
Yeah, I'm not a chemist, so you'll have to explain this to me. What's so special about cold molecular hydrogen?
Well, think of it as the raw material for stars and planets. It's the stuff that eventually clumps together to form those massive objects.
Ah, okay. So finding it around these old stars, that means they're still actively building things?
Exactly. And here's the really interesting part. The researchers found that this cold molecular hydrogen, it was concentrated around the stars, not just scattered randomly throughout that nebula.
So it's not just leftover material from the original gas cloud. It's actually connected to those planet-forming disks. That's pretty strong evidence that those disks are still doing their thing, even after millions of years.
It really is. And it brings us back to that bigger question. What does this discovery tell us about our place in the universe? Where do we fit in all of this?
It's a pretty humbling thought, isn't it? I mean, here we are thinking we have things figured out, and then the universe throws us a curveball like this. It reminds us that we're still learning, still just scratching the surface.
It's true. And that's what makes science so exciting. It's all about constantly questioning and exploring. And this discovery, well, it really opens up a whole new realm of possibilities. If planets can form in these seemingly unlikely places, then what else is out there?
And that leads us to the biggest question of all. If planets can form in these heavy element-poor environments, could life also exist in those places?
Now, that is a question that will probably keep scientists busy for generations to come, but it's a fascinating thought, isn't it? It challenges us to really think about the limits of life in the universe, what's possible and what's not.
Yeah, this whole deep dive has been full of twists and turns. We started off with a discovery that turned everything we thought we knew about planet formation upside down, and now we're talking about the possibility of life existing in the most unexpected places. Mind-blowing.
It's been quite a journey, and it really drives home the point that the universe is full of surprises.
So as we wrap things up here, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. Never stop being curious. Never take our current understanding for granted. The universe is constantly challenging us to rethink what we know and to push the boundaries of our knowledge.
Well said. And with that, we'll leave you to ponder the vastness of space and all the amazing possibilities that are out there. Until next time, keep looking up and keep asking questions. Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. Just a few decades ago, we weren't even sure if there were planets outside our own solar system. And now, here we are talking about discovering whole new star systems and rewriting the rules of planet formation.
Yeah, it really makes you appreciate the power of human curiosity, doesn't it? This drive to explore, to understand our place in this vast universe. And discoveries like this, they just remind us that there's still so much out there that we haven't even begun to imagine.
This whole deep dive has been a wild ride, honestly. We started by questioning everything we thought we knew about how planets form, and now we're talking about the possibility of life existing in the most unexpected corners of the universe.
It's amazing how one observation can spark so many new questions, isn't it? I mean, those ancient stars with their long-lasting disks, it's like they're throwing down a challenge to everything we thought we knew. And it makes you wonder, what other assumptions are we holding onto that might be totally off base?
It's a humbling thought, for sure. But that's the beauty of science, right? It's a constant process of learning, revising, and pushing the boundaries of what we know.
Absolutely. And sometimes those discoveries lead to even bigger, more profound questions. Like, if planets can form in these seemingly inhospitable environments, what does that tell us about the potential for life out there? Is life as we know it a rare fluke, or is it more common than we ever dared to imagine?
Those are questions that will keep scientists busy for generations, I'm sure. But that's the beauty of it all, isn't it? The universe is vast and full of mystery, and we're just starting to explore its depths.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into this remarkable discovery, I'd like to leave our listeners with this thought. Never stop questioning, never stop exploring. The universe is full of surprises, and it's through our curiosity and our thirst for knowledge that we'll unravel its secrets.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you to contemplate the vastness of space and the endless possibilities that lie within it. Until next time, keep looking up and keep those questions coming.